Together we learn, together we grow, together we heal, together we flow. Be cool, every teacher, every school. 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 Be cool, every teacher.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Scholl. I serve as the lead learner for the Center for Educator Wellness and Learning. We call ourselves Cool, and you can find out more about our center right here on the website, cool.us. That's CEWL.us. And there you can find all kinds of information about what we do at Cool, which is to improve the inner and outer lives of educators. And one of the ways we do that is by, when we talk about inner lives, we talk about nutrition and wellness and exercise and things of that nature, taking care of our physical bodies and our mental health. And one of the folks we've partnered with is an amazing person. Her name is Audrey Calianos, and she is the director of onboarding and a registered dietitian at a company called Dietitian Live. And she has done a series of work for us, some videos, and you can find her work at cool.us/bites, BITES. So cool.us/bites. You can find all of Audrey's work that she's done for us there. But tonight, we are super lucky that she has agreed to be a guest on our show to talk about linguistic neuroplasticity, which sounds kind of crazy, but I think she's going to break it down for us. And I want to welcome Audrey to the program tonight. How are you, Audrey?
I'm doing absolutely spectacular. I'm happy to be here.
So you've done a number of sessions for us, and you in person and online. And when we talked about tonight's topic, I know you were really excited not only about the topic, but some of the research that you had, that your company is kind of maybe going to put out there at some point, and we'll get to that. But is there anything else you want to tell our listeners tonight about yourself?
Ooh, about me.
Yeah.
It's such a funny, I always am like, oh my gosh, like in these moments, I have a second of like, wait, who am I? What do I do? I think just that I love people. I love human connection. It's such an important part of being a dietitian. And I think when people maybe sometimes hear the word dietitian, they think, oh, the food police, you're going to tell me not to eat this, not to eat that. But my first job was at Ben & Jerry's. I still got Ben & Jerry's in my freezer to this day. So very about connecting with people, connecting over food. I think there's just so much value in such a virtual world of having a face-to-face conversation like this. So just really excited to be here.
Great. So before we dive into the topic, what was it that drew you into this field of being a dietitian?
Oh yeah, I love to share this story. I'm a very open person. So growing up, I was actually obese. I was always, I don't know if they still do the chart for kids, but like when I was a kid, it was that chart. They'd be like, you were off the chart for weight and in like the 10th percentile for height. So I was really overweight. I didn't know how to eat. I didn't like vegetables. I didn't like exercise. I didn't like myself very much. And I started rowing when I was in middle school and then through high school. And my mom and I really learned about health on kind of through the sports lens. And then going into college, I realized, oh, I can make this a career. Like I get to help other people learn about food in their bodies, take their power back in that sense, but also learn how to love and like themselves. I think that's a huge part of health. You know, I can give you science all day long, but if you're beating yourself up when you look in the mirror, kind of quality of life is that? So through my own journey, kind of coming out on the other side of that, and then through school and just things that I'm really passionate about, again, in terms of health, wellness, the mental, physical connection, I landed at Dietitian Live.
Thank you for sharing that. I've struggled. I haven't struggled with my weight in the way a lot of people have. I do kind of yo-yo in between being really disciplined, I would say, around that. But I struggle with, and maybe you can kind of tie this into introducing your subject. I struggle with this sort of inner narrative when I get into that mode of, okay, I'm gonna eat a lot of protein. I'm gonna watch my macros. I'm gonna really be disciplined about what I eat and make sure I track things. And then when I kind of quote unquote fall off the wagon and go and have half a pizza or a whole pizza sometimes, and a few drinks and dessert or whatever, and then I kind of can double down on that bad decision for the whole week, or let's not say bad, let's say unskillful maybe decision for the weekend. And then I will get on the scale and I've gained 5 pounds, and then I beat myself up, and I take on this sense of guilt. And then I try to, like, okay, now I'm going to go right back into it. But it's like a cycle that keeps repeating. And I wonder if sometimes if it's that cycle is something I could disrupt if I could get rid of the guilt part of it, like the shame part of messing up. So take it from there, however you want to segue.
100%. I do want to call in the fact that you are even aware of your inner narrative is huge. I think a lot of us sometimes aren't even aware, right? Like, what are we thinking or truly feeling in this moment? So being aware of the narrative, being able to name those emotions is huge. I also am going to give anybody's watching, I think maybe he just lost his connection.
No,
there we go. I'm like, I think, okay, you're good. Okay. I'm like, oh, yes,
well, sorry. So what I'm going to do is when you start talking, sometimes I feel like
cool.
if we're not going to go back and forth, I'll just make you full screen so people can see it rather than worrying about this face being on there too. So yeah,
it was totally fine. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
So you're spot on though. I think a lot of us find ourselves in a cycle of, I want to lose weight, right? Okay, let me eat healthy, make some changes, but then maybe we kind of taught to use your words, like fall off a little bit, make a mistake, beat ourselves up, and then this cycle kind of repeats. Part of this is because our brain likes patterns, right? Like you have this cycle of A leads to B, leads to C, leads to guilt and shame, which maybe this isn't the pattern that you or that maybe somebody who's listening wants, but for some reason your brain is sticking in this cycle because it knows, okay, I overeat, I don't feel good. We repeat this cycle that feels really safe. So we 100% though do have the ability to not just disrupt the pattern, but to really create a new pattern. I think about this like a jungle, or if you're walking through a forest, or if you guys are hikers, right? Like you're walking through a jungle or a forest, there's a nice path that's been patted down by you walking it over and over and over again. It's kind of how our brain works too. If you look around right now, right, it looks like, well, I don't know where else to go. I don't know how to get out of this cycle. But through linguistic neuroplasticity, specifically that neuroplasticity piece, that means that our brain has the ability to change. It's changing and growing all the time. We're not just stuck on this one path in the woods. We actually have the ability to start like paving, cutting down, stomping down a new path in the woods. And the more that you walk over this new path, you'll notice, oh, the old path is starting to grow in. And to solidify this new path, it takes consistency. It takes, a solid goal and understanding of where you're going and continuing to walk over it. But eventually you will pad down a new path and the old one will have grown back, and our brain works the same way.
That's really interesting. And when we do mindfulness retreats, we talk about that too, that we have this sort of built-in negativity bias, and our sort of default mode is to do a lot of ruminating. And in order to sort of change that pattern that we're all sort of built with, to change that default state, we have to train the mind to come back to the present moment. And that's what mindfulness really is all about, is about getting out of that time travel mode of ruminating about your past or worrying about your future and coming back here. But that requires training, because we have, like you said, these habitual patterns and these neural pathways we've developed that we just do by default. And so I love the idea that when it comes to nutrition, that there's a similar type of mechanism taking place.
Yes. And to give the full definition of the term linguistic neuroplasticity, so those that are listening, linguistic is referring to language, our thoughts and our words, and how do you use your thoughts and your words, neuroplasticity, to change the way that your brain works, to build that new path. So what my company does is we blend medical nutrition therapy. You can think of this as like traditional dietetics, right? Like your food groups, or treating disease with nutrition, traditional dietetics. We blend that with subconscious rewiring through the linguistic neuroplasticity. We're tapping into the subconscious because some of these patterns, they're very habitual. You think of your subconscious mind, think of your autopilot decisions, like backing out of the driveway, or I use the car example. If you're driving and you're like, whoa, like, wait, how did I get here? I don't even remember driving here. Like when your body just operates on autopilot, sometimes we have autopilots that are helpful for our health or unhelpful for our health. So kind of using Todd's example from earlier, if our autopilot is, okay, like get really disciplined and excited, and then we make a mistake, we beat ourselves up, we feel bad, repeat. Well, that's the autopilot path. We have the ability to change that by targeting, yes, the habits, right? Like, yeah, we're going to talk about, okay, like healthy snacks, balance, but a big piece of that is, what are you thinking and how are you talking to yourself? Because actions are kind of the last thing. If you think thoughts, words then feed into and create action. Every action that we take starts with a thought. So when we're thinking about our health, got to be thinking about what we're thinking about.
So give me an example of how I would, if you were working with me or someone like me, how you would reframe that sort of inner narrative in a way. What would be the new sort of pathway to take?
Ooh, I'd have to ask if you're open to sharing, Todd, and you're welcome to
Totally.
make something up. Thinking about, like, tell me a little bit more about what that inner narrative is, what it sounds like.
So I am the type of person that this is my narrative,
Yes.
is when I'm going to cultivate a new habit, whether it's working out or eating in a way that's going to it's going to get me to a weight that I'm happy with, and sort of support my weightlifting and exercise. So when I'm doing that, I feel like I have to be almost religious about it, where it's almost like it's like it is here's the rule and you can't break the rule. And then
Yeah.
what ends up happening is I can sustain that for a while, maybe weeks or even months.
Mhm.
But then something comes up, like I go on a vacation and I'm like, I'm gonna have a few drinks, or I'm gonna have whatever food. And then it's like, and then I tell myself, when I get back, I'll get right back into it. And then a lot of times I don't get right back into it. So then there's this like, why did you bother doing, you did all that work to get to lose 20 pounds and to get in shape. And now, why are you messing it up? And so there's this whole, like, you're messing it up, you're screwing it up, and
Mhm.
guilt and like shame around it. It's not like an intense guilt, but it's like I'm beating myself up for not continuing. It's almost like, feels like I climbed a mountain and then I allowed myself to slide back down it, and I'm like, God, now I have to climb it again. So I guess that would be what's going
Yes.
on.
And to clarify for our audience too, I feel like maybe when I say like beating yourself up, or Todd says it, maybe like you just said, right? You're like, well, maybe I'm not beating myself up. So when I work with my clients, a lot of times I tend to say, is the language that you're using helpful or is it unhelpful? You can also use positive and negative, but sometimes people, that feels a little bit intangible, like, is this helping you or is this not helping you? Is a really good way to think about it. So if you're sitting at home, like thinking about the way you speak to yourself, like think about what you're working towards. Is what you're saying and thinking helping or not helping? So it's kind of like where I like to start, right? Like some of the things you said, Todd, were like piquing my little my little language flags up. What we look for is, right from the outside looking in, I would help to draw your attention maybe to some of the things that you said, asking about how does this help you? How does this maybe not help you? Um, and then we would take some time, and I can't give too many details. We have our process currently,
Right, right,
the specific, oh my gosh, the the details are currently patent pending, which is really, really exciting. But it's
right.
about bringing awareness to what you're saying, unpacking it, and then we have a process we walk our clients through of, okay, well, how do you shift this to something that's going to help you, to something that feels authentic to you, right? Like, I'm not going to have you walk and be like, everything
Right.
is perfect, I feel amazing. Like, that might not feel really tangible for you right now, but what's an authentic something that you can say to realign with the direction you want to go?
Yeah, I think for me, part of it as I get older is seeing these patterns emerge. Like, the first couple of times you don't do that, you don't see it necessarily as a pattern.
Mhm.
And now I see the pattern. So then I'm like, okay, how do I disrupt this pattern effectively? Instead of just continuing to do the same old thing, which is, go right back up to, and I don't mind telling people, go right back up to 210, 215, and I've got a gut hanging over my belt, and my belt, my pants all of a sudden are like, I'm pulling the thing. I'm going to get it button to, then I'm disciplined for 2 or 3 months, and I'm feeling much better about it. It's like, how do I disrupt that pattern of continuing to go back and forth, or find like this healthy, maybe middle way of enjoying and indulging from time to time
As you should.
without feeling like, oh, I've screwed everything up and now it doesn't matter anymore.
And typically when you get into these phases and you're getting ready, you're feeling really motivated, right? Like feeling the discipline kind of in that flow. What's like your goal in that moment? What's driving you?
I mean, I do think like being healthy, like being well and feeling good in my body, like feeling
Mhm.
like I can bend over and put my shoes on or take off my socks without like going, like that. That's part of it. Also, like being able to go to the doctor, and when I have my cholesterol screened, the numbers look better, and I feel have a little more confidence around my health. But I would be lying if I didn't mention that I also just want to look in the mirror and be confident in what I'm looking at, and feel good about like not having to constantly suck in my gut.
100%. And it's really cool to hear, Todd. You have a nice picture of goals, right? I get a lot of clients that come in and they're hyper focused on, I want to lose 20 pounds. They don't think or see. I help them to think or see outside of that. So that's kind of the first step, is having a deeper goal, a why for what you're doing. Because let's say you do, or when you lose the weight, right? Like you're down to 20 pounds. Well, what keeps you going after that? It's like if you run a marathon, right? Well, what keeps you training after you cross that finish line? So there's
Right.
a mix of having a really clear goal and a clear vision. Our brain doesn't always know the difference as much as we think that it would between imagination and reality. So taking time to sit and just think about and have a really clear idea of who you want to be, what you want to be doing, how you want to feel, and using that as your North Star on your health journey is a huge step. And then again, so we in our sessions do that together. Like you have somebody who helps you to walk through that, and then having someone holding you accountable for, okay, how do you continue to direct your language and your actions towards who you want to go, or who you want to be, and where you're going.
I want to ask you a question. As I don't know if it's really directly related to the topic of our conversation, but you had mentioned it in our pre-conversations about GLP-1s. These are becoming a big deal. A lot of people are hearing about, and for those who aren't aware of what a GLP-1 is, like Ozempic, I think, is one, and Mounjaro and Wegovy and different drugs that essentially, I don't understand the mechanism, and maybe you can share with that, but essentially allow people to lose a significant amount of weight with just injecting this drug. What are your general thoughts about those? And yeah, just what are your thoughts on that as a dietitian?
This is a great question. I feel like my friends and my family ask me this all the time. So for those that don't know, typically a GLP-1, so a lot of them work in different ways, but the majority of them, they slow down the rate at which your system digests food. So then you don't eat as much, you're not feeling as hungry because the food is in your system a little bit longer. So then you eat less. They also influence the way that you break down and metabolize your food as well, help your body be a little bit more efficient in that sense. So I'm very GLP-1 neutral. You know what I mean? Like when I think about my clients, I want to be their number one ally and be in their corner. So I would rather, really support someone through their time on a GLP-1 than swing way too far either direction. But I think my biggest thing is being sure that you do have support. Like as a dietitian, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think if you're going to be on a GLP-1, having a dietitian and or a therapist, someone that you're talking with really regularly about how you're feeling and what you're doing, because these medications can be really, really helpful and they are really helping to change people's lives. But there are also nutrient considerations to keep in mind. It's kind of like any diet, right? Like if you just started eating 500 calories a day without a GLP-1, you probably wouldn't feel very good.
Right.
And sometimes on the GLP-1, you can eat very, very little and you feel fine. You're not hungry. But like as a woman, I'm in my, my late 20s now. Bone density is something on my mind. In your 20s, you're building your bone density up. Well, if you've got somebody in their 20s who's on a GLP-1 and they're not eating a lot and maybe, they're not really exercising, they're just taking this medication, they're losing weight, that's great. But they're also then not building really bone density in really crucial years if they're not also eating enough and doing strength training. So it's always my take on it is I think there's some people where it really is, life-changing can be a big help, but like anything in moderation and being sure that you have a support system, someone to help be sure that you're still taking care of yourself and of your health, if that's the route that you choose.
What is your understanding? I've heard different things, and you never know what to trust in social media. What is your understanding of, say, someone goes on it? Say someone wants to lose 30 or 40 pounds, and they take Ozempic for a couple of months, and they lose the weight. Are they able to go off of it, or is there some type of like sort of need to continue to be on it on an ongoing basis because otherwise it will definitely rebound, or there's some type of rebound or going
Mhm.
off of it effect?
I think it's very person to person. Like I've heard like there's data that shows, I think you could find a study that shows either side of this, right? But I think that's part of why when you're taking it, if that's the route that you choose, like being sure you have somebody who's there to help you learn along the way, right? Like understand how to change your habits, how to change how you're treating yourself and how you're taking care of yourself, maybe is a better way to put that. Like, are you making time to slow down and sit and eat breakfast? Or are you always eating at your desk or skipping breakfast or running around, or like those pieces of our health? So being sure you have somebody who's there to help you set something up so that if you reach a point where you do want to go off of it, you have behaviors in place, a new lifestyle, and that GLP-1 was a tool on the journey. But that way, when you take that piece out, there's still support for your body that continues
Right.
the momentum.
Right. Yeah, because it's kind of like that thing where I think people will go on a diet. They'll have a goal to lose, say, 20 or 30 pounds, and then they get there, and then all the discipline that they had, they think, okay, now I've reached the goal, and then slowly but surely they start to go back to the habits that got them to where
Yeah.
they were overweight before. I've noticed that before in me, because it's really exciting to step on the scale and you're making progress. What's not exciting is get to the goal and you keep getting on the scale and it's the same weight. That it's harder to see to be enthusiastic about, maintaining, I guess, is that hard part for me.
And health is more than just weight as well, right? Like you could there are studies of people maybe who are like a healthy BMI and someone who's technically maybe an overweight BMI. But if the person who's overweight is lifting weights and exercising and eating really well, and the person who's a healthy weight isn't moving their body at all, isn't really paying attention to what they eat, but you do blood work or you look at their long-term health outcomes, and the person who maybe weighs 10, 15, 20 pounds more, but is, moving their body and taking care of themselves in a different way, have different outcomes. I think remembering that health is so much more than just a number on the scale. I always encourage you, when you think about losing weight, I'm gonna zoom out here for a minute. So think about the idea that focus is singular. You never hear people being like focuses, foci, right? Like focus is singular. If you're only focused on losing weight and what you're losing and what you're getting rid of, you're missing out on, oh, what am I gaining from this? Like, you're going to lose 20 pounds. That's amazing. Like, it's a great goal. Like, that's a really worthwhile thing to work on. But what is that going to bring into your life? How are you going to feel different? How are you going to show up different? Like, can you tie your shoes down? Can you get on the floor with your grandkids? Can you carry the grocery bags in and the baby carriage in, right? All at once. Not that you have to do that, but if you wanted to. So really putting your focus on not where you're lacking or what you're letting go of, like let go of what you're letting go of, but put the focus on what you're grabbing onto and stepping into as you go forward.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it kind of ties in with that neuroplasticity is what is the conversation you're having with your head in your head? Because if it's just about the losing weight and not about, yeah, like what am I also gaining? What am I not just trying to get away from, but what am I moving towards? I think
Mhm.
is really powerful. Um, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about Dietitian Live since you're their onboarding director, and and also talk to educators about who might be interested in connecting with a dietitian because for a lot of them, I mean, we have Blue Cross Blue Shield here in South Carolina, and I think folks may not be aware that that can be part of their benefits. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it, and then what Dietitian Live does in particular?
Yes, 100%. So I encourage you guys, if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, I mean, obviously I'm going to recommend you come check us out. I really love my company. What we do is extremely unique. But if you're like, hey, I just want to see a dietitian, or maybe you want to see someone in person, my company's totally remote. Like, call your insurance company, see what benefits are available to you. But our company specifically, so we're telehealth company. So we live I'm in South Carolina, but we live all over the US, but we also see clients all over the United States. And what our company does is, again, it's something very unique. We're blending traditional dietetics with language, with working with your subconscious mind. So knowing this is a space where you're going to show up and we're going to get to know you. I always say, like, we could talk about your plate all day long, but if I don't know what's going on around that plate, how you feel, how you're talking about that plate and about yourself, it's really hard to just change that plate long term. So this would be a program you'd be walking into where you're really going to be seen and heard. You're going to build trust with your practitioner. Our average client stays with us for 16 and a half months, and we meet for just about 1 hour every single week. I think when I say that, sometimes people are like, whoa, an hour every week? An hour of your week is less than 1%
Mhm.
of the hours in your week. Like, you are deserving of less than 1% of the time in your week. And when you think about it that way, it's like, oh yeah, why wouldn't I slow down, pour into myself for an hour? So knowing this is a space where you're gonna come in and, yeah, we're gonna talk about your food, sleep, nutrition, or sorry, I said nutrition, but food, stress, sleep, and movement are kind of the four pillars of health that we really review, again, with our kind of our meat and potatoes of the language piece as well. But
Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing. And so they can go to dietitianlive.com is the website, right?
Yes, I also
Okay.
have I put it in the chat. Would
Put
that
it in
work
the
for
chat, and
people?
then yeah, then I'll copy and paste that. So one of the things that you had mentioned is, and I don't know if you're ready to share this about the research. For
Yes.
we know diabetes is becoming more and more of an issue even for young people, and people get their A1C checked, and you have some exciting news around that. You ready to share
Do.
about
I
that?
do. I think maybe it's, if you're sitting there and you're like, this sounds like a perfect program for me. Like, I want to talk about more than just meal plans and macros. We do that. We do so much more. Or if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know about this, right? Like, my thoughts, feelings, like food feels like food, feelings feel different than that. But a testament to our program is in our latest cohort, we had 27% of our type 2 diabetic clients completely reverse their type 2 diabetes. So they had diabetes, but now if they went back, their A1C is equal to or below 5.7. So they no longer would be diagnosed with diabetes if they went to the doctor. And that was without a GLP-1, no
Wow.
medications. 80% of our pre-diabetic clients, the same thing. No medications, reversed their A1C to a normal range, which is huge. We had somebody with an A1C of 14 who now has a 5.5. It's incredible, and to
And
hear
that's
their stories and to
GLP-1s, right?
yes, no GLP-1s.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Yes.
I just get excited. I get talking about it.
Yeah.
We attribute that to the idea of, again, I am very GLP-1 neutral. Again, I am here. I have clients on
Right.
GLP-1s,
Right.
right? Like, it's your body. I'm here to support you. I'm going to offer you some education. We're going to talk through your options, but I'm here to support you. I'm in your corner.
Okay.
But I think that part of this is because once you start taking a GLP-1, you're thinking about it every day. You're sticking yourself with a needle every single week. It sometimes, not in everybody, but in some people, I think it can reinforce that idea that, oh, my body's broken. Like,
Right.
I'm sick. Like, I'm only losing weight because of this medication. This is the only reason that I'm getting better. So again, I think they can be very, very helpful for people. Again, I have clients that have been really successful with GLP-1, but I think it's interesting that we've had this without. Our non-GLP-1 clients are actually outperforming our GLP-1 clients in terms of
Wow.
reversals.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think most people see the wisdom in if you can accomplish a health goal without a pharmaceutical, that's great. I mean, not just from the perspective of not putting something in your body that you don't need, but also from just the cost of it, as an example,
Yes.
and just keeping up with the refills and things. But I mean, but for those people who really need it, it's a really wonderful thing. I'm like you. I'm neutral. If I need to take a pharmaceutical drug and it's going to help me because I've tried other interventions and it doesn't work, then we do it. But if I can get somewhere naturally where I want to be, definitely that's my preference, and I think most people feel that way.
I do too. I think people just don't always believe enough in themselves and in their bodies. And this is, again, a program where if you want to start looking in the mirror, or when you think about yourself or look in pictures, or when you're talking to yourself, right? I don't, at least for me, I feel like I talk to myself all day long in my own head, right? Like, if you want that to be a more helpful space, if you want to start being able to look in the mirror and be like, I'm really proud of who I am. Like, I know I'm strong. Like, I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm deserving of health and happiness. If those, if these are things that you're like, wow, that would feel really worthwhile for me, I'd encourage you guys to sign up, or again, just to look into us. Or I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Is probably the best way to reach me. If you guys are on LinkedIn, you're welcome to send me a message, ask me questions. I'm super open about what we do. It's absolutely changed my life.
Yeah. One of the things that I think Hippocrates said was "Food is thy medicine." That's that's the quote that really sticks with me when I think about my food choices. Is just like, food is medicine. Is what our bodies need, and like just
Yeah.
thinking about what it is, looking at the ingredients list, and for me, trying to eat stuff in its natural form is something I've been trying to do. I don't do that even close to perfectly, but I've over the past few years, one of the things I've really tried to do is you get more stuff from the produce section and just eat things and it's in the form that it comes in naturally. And I found that's definitely produces less inflammation for me.
Oh,
So
100%. And I know we're wrapping up soon, but I do want to leave you guys with something really interesting. Like, yes, what we eat matters. Like, food is medicine, but what we think about our food also matters. There's a study called the milkshake study, and they had two groups of people, or one group of people, my apologies. One group came in two times. One time they told them, this milkshake, it's a health shake. It's really healthy. It's like 300 calories. Enjoy. The next time, or the other time, they were like, this is an indulgent milkshake. It's like 700 calories. Enjoy.
mhm.
Same people, same milkshake, but based on what they were told about it, they had different metabolic responses. Their hormones
Wow.
responded very differently. So I'm a dietitian. I 100%, right, believe in the science of food, but it's also very interesting to look at the science of the mind and how that interacts with the food that you eat.
So what I hear you saying is all I have to do is that the pizza and wine, it's health food. It's gonna be.
It's an interesting thing to think about. Like if you thinking, like if I eat a donut and I sit down and I'm like, oh, this is so bad for me.
Right,
And my
right,
cortisol goes up because I'm getting stressed about eating this unhealthy donut versus if I sit down and I'm like, ah, this is great. This is going to be so delicious and I'm calm. I'm in a state of
right,
calm and joy.
right.
That's a
Yeah,
different
totally.
response.
Totally. And even after it, just being able to, because that's what happens to me is like after, it's not during. I can kind of be in a state of denial while I'm eating it because it's so good. It's after it where I get to that state. So I think that's where I need to do my work is the conversation I'm having with myself after I eat the donut.
Yes.
So, well, Audrey, this has been wonderful as always. I enjoy every time we get a presentation from you, new information. It's always eye opening and interesting and research based and wonderful. So, I just want to thank you and just kind of plug you again, dietitianlive.com. And for those who are following along on Facebook, I put the link that Audrey shared in the Facebook in comments, so you should be able to find it there.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you so much, Audrey. I appreciate your time.
Bye, everyone.
All right, take care. All right, everybody. That was Audrey Calianos, and you can find more of her work on our website at cool.us/bites. She did some recipe videos, and we have done live streams in the past, and just want to encourage you to check that out. And coming up, we have some cool live streams lined up for you. On December 10th, we're going to be talking with Sylvia Wright. She is a candidate for South Carolina Superintendent of Education, and we'll have a one-on-one conversation with her. And then on January 7th, we're going to have a conversation with Lisa Ellis, who is also running for South Carolina Superintendent of Education. This is our second time running, and we are really excited about talking to both of those amazing educators. Also want to point those of you who are induction teachers, so those are folks in the first 5 years of your career, to our Cool Coaching program. It's free, it's online, it's one-to-one. You do not need to be a member of the SCEA. Of course, we invite you to become a member, but you don't have to be to enjoy this. All you have to do is be a public school teacher in the state of South Carolina in your first 5 years, and you can log on every Tuesday and Thursday night. So they'll do this again tomorrow night from 6 to 8 p.m. You do not have to log on for 2 hours. You can log on at 7:07 or 7:49, and you can log on anytime between 6 and 8. You just go to cool.us/coaching. That's cool.us/coaching. And then you get put into one of these breakout rooms with one of these three educators, Angie, Stephanie, or Marcella, all amazing, all veterans, and all can provide you that unfiltered, unbiased support that you need. You can ask them questions about anything related to your career, classroom management tips, assessment tips, lesson planning tips, just issues you may have in communications, whatever. They're amazing people to talk to. They're going to listen, and they're going to provide that support that you need. And also, the last thing is, last week we had a live stream with Alex Del Castillo. If you missed that, you can go to cool.us/yoga. That's cool.us/yoga. And you can see all of his free yoga sessions and the live stream we did last week where he talked about yoga and social emotional learning for educators. And he is doing a lot of great content on the SCEA's TikTok and Instagram channels. So if you're not connected with the South Carolina Education Association on TikTok or Instagram, want to invite you to go over to those platforms, do a search for the SCEA on Instagram or TikTok, start following, and then you will see the content that he does, and it's amazing. He does great work, and I want to again give a shout out to Alex Del Castillo for the work that he's doing. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thanks again to Audrey Calianos for being an incredible guest as always. And we will see you on December 10th when we talk with Sylvia Wright. Until then, hope you have a great Thanksgiving and a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. Take care, everybody.
Together we learn, together we grow, together we heal, together we flow. Be cool, every teacher, every school. Be cool, every teacher, every school. cool, every teacher, every school.